Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind podcast. Today is Thursday, June 13th, 2024. I am Keith Eister, filling in for Stevie once again here today. We have a 6-game MLB slate to break down for you on this Thursday. Joining me to help do just that is Tim Buell, TastefulTides. Tim, how are you doing today?
Well, my single entry team is absolutely horrible. I was dead very, very early on Wednesday night, so I started researching for the U.S. Open golf. So I'm
There you
pretty
go.
excited. I'm pretty excited for golf the next 4 days.
Nice. I have not been dabbling in the PGA streets for a couple of years. I did a couple of years back, but I haven't played much. Do you play frequently, or are you just doing it because it's a major?
No, I play it pretty much every week, but I play more volume during the majors.
Yeah, I got to chase those big payouts, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Wednesday night, not going especially great for me either. I am overweight on Sonny Gray and Tanner Bybee. I liked both of their strikeout props yesterday on the show, and I chickened out and didn't write either of them up today. That was a mistake because they combined for like 20 strikeouts. I think Bybee had 11 and Gray finished with 9. Should have pulled the trigger on those two. So tilting that a little bit, but that's all right. We'll see what we have. The Yankees are doing their thing again. That offense is just absolutely incredible. Got a ton of Dodgers stacks going late as well. And of course, the chalk pitcher of the slate, Bryce Miller, still just getting started here. I ended up dabbling with Jonathan Cannon a little bit just to try to get off of some of that David Peterson chalk. We'll see if that works out. Yeah, because Peterson definitely did not work out. So we'll see if I can squeeze through a Cannon Yankees team or something like that. Maybe the Dodgers go off, but we'll see.
I thought about going Cannon over Peterson because I knew Peterson was going to be super chalky, but I think my team was going to be dead anyway, so it didn't really matter because I went Sanchez. So yeah, not a good night for me.
All right. Well, we've got a 6-game slate. It's actually a split slate. There's a couple of afternoon games as well, so plenty of chances to get it back here on Thursday. Let's go ahead and jump right in, break this one down. Should be a nice quick one here with only 6 games on the main slate. First game is the Philadelphia Phillies at the Boston Red Sox. Good pitching matchup here. Philly is -116 favorites, 8.5 run total here, even in Fenway Park. Aaron Nola on the hill for the Phillies. Tanner Houck on the hill for the Red Sox. Any interest here in Aaron Nola at 9K?
Yeah, I think his price is extremely affordable. I think he kind of struggled a little bit at the beginning of the season, but now he seems to be back to his usual self. Maybe not quite as dominant as years past, but still like a 6 to 7K strikeout guy. He's only 9K. This Boston team, this Boston lineup, they're going to strike out around over 25% of the time against righties, around 28% against righties. So I'm fine with Nola. I'm assuming he'll be somewhat popular, but I think that he's a relatively safe option, assuming he can get by guys like Devers and Duran.
I'm not sure if he will be popular, and that's just because of the matchup that the other two guys just above him have. You've got Joe Ryan against Oakland, and yet another Seattle pitcher going to be major chalk.
That's true.
Actually not as expensive. It's Crochet on the other side who has the best strikeout matchup in baseball. It's actually a pretty loaded top end of the pitching range here. Not necessarily the most recognizable names. Nola certainly is.
Right.
I'm just curious to see how the ownership shakes out in this top tier. I'm a little concerned about upside for Nola when you compare him to a Garrett Crochet and a Joe Ryan. His strikeout rate has fallen down to about league average this season. He still has one of the best leashes in baseball. Boston definitely helps that strikeout upside. So I'm with you. He's very much in play. If he's the chalk pitcher of the slate, though, I think I will be underweight. I actually do like the other two a little bit more.
I guess I would question like if Joe Ryan's going to be super chalky, that I wouldn't mind pivoting to Nola. I completely agree with you about Crochet. He's got a huge ceiling against Seattle. But like Ryan, I don't know. Like if Nola's going to be the guy that gets squeezed, I'd be more likely to play Nola over Ryan, I think. But
so I agree with you there. It's totally going to be ownership dependent for me. If Nola is lower owned than the other two, then I'm going to have a
Yeah.
lot of interest in him. If he's the chalk guy, then I'm probably underweight. All three of them, I think, are in really great spots.
Yes. Yeah.
Another guy I'm pretty excited about, Tanner Houck on the other side. I have been singing him. I've been sitting on him for a couple of starts here. I noticed 3 starts ago or whatever that he had faced the same team on 3 different occasions in back-to-back starts already this season. The strikeouts are starting to come up, and that was kind of my hypothesis a couple of starts ago, and it's coming to fruition here. His strikeouts are up to 25%. I know it's a really tough matchup against Philly, but because of the strength of this 9K range, I think Houck is going to be completely overlooked. I have interest here against Philly. He could certainly get blown up. Philly is a very good offense, but I believe Houck is more like a 27% strikeout guy, and a couple of starts ago, he was around 23.5. He's up to 25 now. I think he's going up to like 26, 27% by the time the end of the season rolls around. So at 8,800, a little bit cheaper than Nola, a nice little discount over those other 2 9K guys we discussed already. And then Castillo, I think, is going to be pretty popular right below him. So Houck is a tournament pitcher. I have a ton of interest. How about you?
I'm not as interested as you. I mean, this Phillies team doesn't really strike out against righties. So, I mean, you got Schwarber at 30% and then nobody else over 20%. So I'm worried about his ceiling. I do agree that he's better than we probably think he is or that he's shown. But boy, I guess I'm just not seeing, I'm not as bullish as you are on Houck in this particular matchup. Yeah, I mean, I'm out on him. I don't think I'd play him in a 3 max. Maybe I'd get to a couple in a 20 max set.
Yeah, I agree. Like in 3 max, it's going to be really tough. It's actually a strong pitching slate. The more that we get into this and break it down, in my 2040 lineups, I'm definitely going to have some Tanner Houck, but I certainly understand you being a little bit lukewarm on it. It's a tough ballpark to pitch in. He does have that really strong ground ball rate, which helps him with the Fenway setting. But this Philly team is no joke. So I don't like the matchup for him. It's simply an ownership play here, but I'm expecting him to be less than 10%, given the strength of the other pitching on the slate. That's just my take on it. And I buy that the strikeouts are coming up a little bit. So don't blame me at all for not being quite as bullish on him. I will probably take some shots, but it could go the other way. Absolutely. Talk to me about these Philly bats here against him.
Yeah, I mean, definitely hard to bypass Harper and Schwarber. But really, I'm not too high on them. They're pretty expensive. There's some expensive pitchers that we need on the slate, so probably a pass for me, other than one-offing Harper and or Schwarber.
Yeah, I'm not real interested in Philly. I mentioned Houck's ground ball rate really has been limiting the home runs this season. 55.5% ground ball rate. He's given up just 2 home runs all season long. I really like the skill set of Tanner Houck. That's part of the reason I'm willing to take a gamble on him today in a tough matchup. I'm out on Philly as well. I agree. Like, I want to pay up for pitching. I want to pay up for Dodgers more than likely. So I'm not going to try to find a pivot with these expensive Philly bats. Boston on the other side here against Aaron Nola.
Not really anyone I'm that interested. Other than maybe Devers as like a one-off, but that's it. I mean, this lineup is pretty ugly. So I'm really not interested at all in Boston.
Yeah, I'm with you. Even if I think that Nola has a little bit of limited upside because his strikeouts are down, he's still a really, really good starting pitcher. Boston just doesn't have all that much talent. I think they've kind of overperformed to this point in the season.
Yep.
And for that reason, they're overpriced. Like, Devers is fine, but Duran at 5,200, I don't think I can pay that price.
The bottom half of this lineup is so ugly
It's
and
ugly.
so strikeout heavy. Sorry to interrupt, Keith, but yeah, it's so ugly in the bottom half of this lineup.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. The only way I even consider it is if Nola does end up a little bit chalky, like we talked about. But no, not a ton of real interest for me. All right, moving it along. I forgot to say what's up to YouTube. Appreciate everyone hanging out in the chat there. I see Derek has got a nice little Yankee stack, he said, with Cannon and Miller. So he's rooting for Jonathan Cannon along with me. You got
Nice.
Richie in there, Don Yeezy in there. So appreciate everybody hanging out with us. Michael's in there as well. Always appreciate those that join us live for the show. It makes it a little bit more fun with the interaction. Second game on the slate here, we have the Miami Marlins at the New York Mets. Rodri Munoz going for the Marlins. Luis Severino is a minus 190 favorite here against the Marlins. 8.5 is the run total in the game. This Rodri Munoz character, like his minor league stats are just atrocious. He's had a little success in the bigs. I don't know what to do with this guy. 6,300 is the price tag here on Munoz. Any interest here against the Mets?
We can't play him, can we? I mean, I don't think so. Not on this slate. Not with these pitchers that we already have. Like, I don't think we can do it. We just can't do it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like when he first came out and he had a couple of really good starts early in the season, it was like, where is this coming from? Nothing in the data is suggesting that this guy should be any good. He's been his last start. He was kind of more back to that guy that looks more like his minor league line. So I can't take a chance. Really low strikeout Mets lineup here. I'm not that scared of the power in the Mets lineup. I mean, obviously you have the Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor are fine. Marte homered on Wednesday night, but it's not an imposing lineup. I don't trust this guy. The strikeouts just kind of came out of nowhere after disappearing once he got to the upper levels of the minors. So I'm not buying that he's an above average strikeout pitcher. I will be out on Munoz. Luis Severino at 8K against a pretty bad Marlins lineup here. How any interest in that?
Well, I mean, his price is just too close to guys like Castillo, Nola, even guys like Crochet and Fought. So like guys I like way more than Severino. So I mean, I guess you could in a 150 set just because Miami is so bad. But he has strung some good solid starts this season. I don't think he has the ceiling that you'll have to have him to win a GPP.
Yeah, I'm with you. That strikeout rate all the way down under 20%. Miami, as bad as they are, doesn't strike out all that much. I don't think I'm playing any Severino. I agree with you. The upside is really limited. He's walked a few too many guys. I think there's one other guy, even a little bit cheaper, so I'm having a little conundrum here. Like if we're going to pay up for Dodgers on the slate, which when we get to that game, I think we're going to have a lot of interest there. It's hard to play two 9K pitchers and fit in a Dodgers stack. So we're going to have to find some semblance of cheap pitching here. There's one other interesting.
You're not going to say that guy's name, are you?
No, not the cheapest one.
No.
Oh,
the guy above him.
No, I'm not.
Okay. Right.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it. There's one guy who I think has some sneaky upside here. He's not super cheap. He's just below Severino here. Yeah, no interest in Severino for me. How about Miami bats against him? Any interest there?
I don't have any interest in Miami bats. They're cheap. I guess they could be filling plays for a cheap 3-man, but really, this is not a good part for hitting. Not a good matchup, so not really, no.
Yeah, I'm with you there. As much as the strikeouts have come down for Severino, he's actually been good from a run prevention standpoint. It's a terrible ballpark to hit in. There's no talent in this Miami lineup. Jazz is priced up where he should be. Like Jazz is the one guy I would want to target here, but I just don't feel the need to do it in this ballpark. Severino's good enough. I can find other guys in the 4K range, I believe. No interest for me either. The Mets are a more interesting case, I think.
Yeah,
we're both on the Munoz is not good train, I believe. Talk to me about these Mets bets.
Well, it's Munoz's control, right?
Yeah.
So, anytime someone's got really bad control, you can stack against them. So I do have some interest in these bats. Even guys like Lindor, assuming Nimmo's back, Alvarez. I mean, any of these Mets, even McNeil, who I think is horrible, is playable on the slate. So just because Munoz has a high walk rate, so that's huge, right? So I do like the Mets on the slate.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I would prefer to save money and use them as more of a mini stack filler. So guys like Alvarez, I'm really interested in. If Tyrone Taylor is in the lineup, I don't mind him. Like, yes, of course, Alonso, Lindor, Nimmo are the three I really want. But if I can save a little bit of money, I'm interested in that. And I don't mind the McNeil call as well. I'm with you. He's not great, but he plays a weak second base position and he's 3,300. So I think he's totally in play. We'll see where his lineup spot ends up. But if he's in the 6 or 7 hole, I think he's very viable. I don't know. I struggle with the full stack, and maybe I shouldn't because of that walk rate that you mentioned. But the ballpark, and I'm not in love with this Mets lineup.
I know
Vientos
they're so bad. They're so bad.
yeah,
Yeah.
and their ballpark is so tough for power. Like, I don't know. It's a struggle, but it's a small slate. Munoz can absolutely get blown up. So I'm on board with some Mets for sure.
Yeah.
Next game on the slate here, Oakland Athletics at the Minnesota Twins, the game that just went absolutely bonkers on Wednesday. What total runs were 26 or something like that in this game? Don't think we get quite that many here. We have Luis Medina going for the A's. Joe Ryan going for the Minnesota Twins. He's a massive minus 220 favorite here. 8 is the run total in the game. Any interest here in Medina at 5,500?
I was actually kind of considering it, but probably not in single entry. But I think you should have him in your pool in a 20 max, just because there's so many bats that you want on the slate. So I don't hate the idea of getting to some Medina, but I probably can't pull the trigger in a single entry setting.
Yeah, I mean, it's only because context of the slate, like there's not any great options under 8,500
Right.
on this slate. So going all the way down to 5,500, I don't think is the worst idea. I don't think Luis Medina is all that good. He walks way too many guys. Like his walk rate, and I know it's a very small sample this season, but even going back to the last season, this guy walks almost as many as he strikes out. Like I'm fine taking a shot on a cheap guy who walks too many people, but I want the strikeouts to be way up there as well. His strikeouts are just 15.5% this season. He hasn't even struck out all that many guys in the minors either. So I struggle with the upside. If he was a better strikeout pitcher, I wouldn't have any problem taking some shots here and just dealing with the walks because of the cheap price tag. I'm looking up his AAA K rate. Yeah, 21% in AAA this season. Like that, I'm not seeing the upside here. He was 29% last season in AAA, but I don't know. He's had a couple of chances last season and this season as well, and he just hasn't been able to translate it to the bigs. I think I'm out on Medina. Just going to have to deal without a cheap pitcher on the slate. It's looking like. How about Joe Ryan on the other side? Great matchup against Oakland, obviously here. 9,500 is the price tag. Any interest?
Yeah, he's definitely the top overall SP1 on the slate. It's not really close. It's just going to be about ownership. So definitely have interest. 27% K rate, low walks, low ISO. Good job getting the ball on the ground. Low hard hits. Solid, very solid swing strike percentage. So I love him. I just don't know if I want to play him as 60% in single entry. So that's the only thing.
Yep, I'm with you. It's very much like the Aaron Nola conversation. There's no reason not to like him. It's an awesome matchup. The strikeout rate is well above average, over 27%. The walks have come down this year. Joe Ryan's just been a really good pitcher. Walks are all the way down at 4.2%. So really good season being put together here by Joe Ryan. Really great matchup here against Oakland, who strikes out a ton. I think the upside is incredible, but it's a small slate, and we got to figure out a way to get different somehow. If he's the chalkiest pitcher on the slate, I'll be underweight. To go overweight on guys like Crochet and a couple others that we'll talk about as well. But if Nola's the chalk and Ryan's underneath him, then I'll probably be overweight on Ryan. If Ryan is the chalk and Nola's underneath him, I'll probably be underweight on Nola and overweight on Ryan. So I'll just play the ownership game with those two pitchers. I think they're both great, but we'll see how ownership shakes out. How about any interest in Minnesota bats who just went absolutely berserk yesterday? We playing them here against Medina?
Does Royce Lewis have a home run every game still?
Yeah.
Not quite. 8 out of 9. No, not quite. Close, but yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
Just incredible. Hopefully he stays healthy because it looks like he is absolutely legitimate.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you gotta like stacking against Medina. I mean, Trevor Larnach 4K, Kirilov 3,700, Kepler 44, and obviously Lewis at 6K. Love it. Love this Minnesota stack. They're affordable. Yeah, I mean, Medina is definitely a pitcher that we can target on the slate.
Yeah, he's got that big walk rate like we were talking about with Munoz. Things can go real
Right.
south in a hurry for a guy that has a 15% walk rate. So right there with you, Minnesota looks really good. Lewis Price keeps coming up. He just keeps homering though, so you got to keep playing. I mean, I think we have to consider that this guy might be on like maybe he's not Aaron Judge quite territory, but Bobby Witt maybe might be a better comparison. A young guy with just insane potential. On his way, perhaps, to being one of the best hitters in the league, if he's not quite there yet. Minnesota,
a contrarian way to build could be to go double barrel pitching and go Mets Minnesota as your stack.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. Minnesota is cheap enough outside of Lewis that I think you could make that work.
Yeah.
I did want to touch up on Minnesota's pinch hit risk a little bit, being that they're against a righty starter. We've seen them pinch hit for guys like Kirilov quite a bit. Larnach is another guy who's been lifted at times late in games.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of risk there with the pinch hit, but that's why you're getting a discount on these prices. Like Larnach is a better hitter than 4K. If he was guaranteed 4 at bats every game, I think he'd be up closer to 45, 4,600.
And you can still go Buxton, Castro, Correa, Kepler,
Yep.
those guys, and not worry about that so much.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And maybe even just do one of Larnach or Kirilov in any given lineup, and that minimizes your risk a little bit. You hope it's the guy that you don't have in the stack that gets hooked and your guy stays in there. Because I do love Larnach and Kirilov both as hitters. It's just that they have a little bit of pinch hit risk with them if they were to bring a lefty out of that Oakland bullpen. But yeah, I'm right there with you. Love the Minnesota stack today. Next game on the slate, we have the Los Angeles Angels at the Arizona Diamondbacks. Griffin Canning going for the Angels. Brandon Pfaadt going for the Diamondbacks. D-backs are minus 178 favorites in this one. 8.5 is the run total in the game. Been a real struggle for Griffin Canning. He is now the cheapest pitcher on the slate, which is just wild because it looks like he was actually putting something together last season, but it's been a disaster this season. He's down at 5K. Any interest here against an Arizona team?
No, I really don't. He's been so bad. I'd almost rather pitch Medina or Munoz. Yeah, Cannon's been so bad. Low Ks, bad control, high ISO to lefties, huge ISO to lefties this year. So yeah, definitely no for me on Canning.
Yeah, it's sad, but I cannot do it. Well, there's no upside here, right? Arizona doesn't strike out. Like they haven't been great against right-handed pitching, but they still don't strike out. They lack power against righties, but they also make a ton of contact. So even if Canning is able to survive 6 innings and like very similar to his start against Houston, he went 6 innings, gave up 3 runs, only 2 strikeouts. Like that's the type of game I see him having. That was worth 7 DK points. I don't think that's enough to get it done here. So I'm out as well. How about Pfaadt on the other side? Any interest here against the Angels?
So this is your guy.
This is my guy.
This is your guy. Okay. I don't know. I guess he's okay. I guess he's fine. That the bottom of this Angels lineup is pretty strikeout heavy. The top isn't. So if he can get through the top, he'll have a good game. Yeah, I'm not crazy about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's strictly a price play, and it's the fact that I think that Brandon Pfaadt's a really good pitcher, and he's had horrible luck his entire career, even dating back to last season. This guy had bad luck. His ERA is 4.60. His xERA is 3.04. His Sierra is 3.54. So, like the estimators all believe he's better than he has been. his strikeout, like the skills look really good. The strikeouts are around league average at 23.5%, 4.5% walk rate. Like those are really solid skills. And the Angels are much better against lefties than they are against righties. I do agree with your point that the top of the Angels lineup doesn't contain a ton of strikeouts. So I have some concern for upside here for Fott because he's not an elite strikeout pitcher. Even his swinging strike rate is around like 10.8%, which means that his actual strike rate is about right where it should be, around league average. I'm concerned about the upside, but if I need a way to save some money, I don't hate the idea of sending Fott into a lineup. I feel like he can get through 6 or 7 innings here and maybe get a little bit of upside, but with length rather than strikeouts. And if he gets me 5 or 6 strikeouts in 7 innings, maybe it's good enough. But what question did you have?
Would you rather pay the $600 for Severino?
No, I would not.
No, you wouldn't. Okay.
No, I'll take Fott straight up raw points.
Wow. Okay.
I don't buy Severino as a strikeout pitcher anymore. Miami, like I think Severino can go 6 or 7 innings too. I think Fott has a better chance to strike out 7 Angels than Severino has to strike out 7 Marlins.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Obviously we haven't built lineups in Sims or lineup HQ or anything like that as we're breaking it down on a first look. But I think if you're wanting to get up to Dodgers bats on this slate, you're going to run into problems with the salary cap. So
yeah, definitely.
It'll be interesting. How about bats in this game? Any Angels against Fott?
I have no interest in the Angels really at all against Fott.
Yeah, we've talked about this several times on this podcast. The Angels we play against lefties, and we love to play them against lefties. They're pretty horrible against righties. Fott is susceptible to lefty power, and the Angels just don't have any lefty power. It's part of the reason I have interest in him today. Shanwell has actually been better lefty-lefty. Calhoun, the same. Like Calhoun has been okay against righties as well. Moniak is a cheap bat. If you're, I would have interest if they had some semblance of lefty talent in their lineup, and they just don't.
Right.
Moniak is a cheap one-off. I'm fine with. That's really the best thing I can say. I don't have any interest here in stacking against Fott. Arizona bats on the other side against Griffin Canning.
I love the lefties. Jock Peterson, probably one of my favorite plays on the entire slate. Love Marte. Love Carroll. McCarthy at 4K. All these lefties I really, really like.
Yeah, completely with you. Arizona is one of my favorite stacks on the slate. Lefties first. I'm right there with you. Love Jock Peterson. Is Corbin Carroll starting to figure it out? A couple of multi-hit games in a row here. Like, I hope so. I've been rooting for this guy. Looked like an incredible hitter last season. He actually has 3 multi-hit games in his last 5. I'm not sure what he's doing here on Wednesday night as we're recording. But good for him. I love to see him starting to pick it up a little bit here because the talent, like the speed with a little bit of power, that profile is extremely exciting for DFS. Hopefully he can get back to at least what he was last year. But he's still 4,500. So if he's got it figured out, that's too cheap. Love the Marte call. You can always play Christian Walker just because of his big time power. Moreno's a cheap catcher. Pavin Smith is a guy that I don't mind as a cheap lefty. Yeah, the Diamondbacks are right behind the Dodgers probably for me. Minnesota's close too, but Diamondbacks are one of the top stacks on the slate for me.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. 2 more games to go here. We've got the Chicago White Sox at the Seattle Mariners. Garrett Crochet on the bump for the White Sox. Luis Castillo going for the Mariners. Castillo is a -178 favorite in this one. 6.5 is the run total here. Don't see many 6.5. Don't see the run totals get below 7 very often. But
that's
a couple
crazy.
of really good pitchers. Yeah.
Is Strider and DeGrom pitching?
By looking at the run total, you might think that, but Crochet's been incredible this year. We know Seattle strikes out a ton. Talk to me here about Garrett Crochet at 9,400.
Yeah, so I said Joe Ryan was the best pitcher on the slate, which I stand by, but Crochet has the highest ceiling on the slate, in my opinion. Super strikeout heavy team, Seattle. Crochet, huge K guy. Had 10 Ks and 91 pitches against Boston. Huge ceiling for this guy. I'm definitely playing him in 1 to 3. I might even play him in cash games. So yeah, I mean, he's a borderline must play, borderline somebody you should be way overweight in GPPs.
Yeah, totally agree with. He has the most upside on the slate. I will be very interested to see what ownership looks like. I don't know. A couple people in chat have said they'd rather play Crochet over guys like Ryan and Nola. And you're saying that. I'm saying the same thing. Like, is the whole field going to think that way? And it's Crochet that actually ends up as the chalk pitcher here?
See, but I like that. I'd like him as chalk. I'd play him as chalk because he has a massive ceiling. Whereas I wouldn't with like Nola, and I probably wouldn't with Ryan, but definitely Crochet I would. He's the type of guy I would eat the chalk with.
Yeah, because he has 12 strikeout upside, and not many people do.
Right.
In this matchup, the best strikeout matchup in the league, he has the highest K rate on the slate by a huge margin, 34%. Joe Ryan is second at 27.5%. So, I mean, there really isn't a comparable to Crochet on the slate, and he's the same price as all of the other best pitchers as well. So maybe we kind of overlooked that the field is going to be willing to play Crochet because of the matchup here against Seattle. I was kind of thinking he would be behind Nola and Ryan. Might work out where Crochet is actually the chalkiest pitcher on the slate. So it's a small slate. We're going to have to pay attention to ownership.
Isn't he a trade target too, Keith? So they might be showing him off.
There was a rumor that San Diego was after him.
Okay.
He's still got 3 years of service time before he's a free agent that he can. Okay. So he's in arbitration. Like, he's going to be cheap for 3 years. Not cheap, but like he's going to start earning probably start at 10 million in arbitration next year and work his way up to 20 by the time he's a true free agent. But I mean, he's a $30 million pitcher if he was on the open market. So you get a little discount there. I think the White Sox are just so barren with talent that they're trying to cash this guy in and restock their farm system a little bit, just get any kind of talent into the organization while he has his value. So he could be on the trade market, but they don't necessarily have to trade him by any means. Alan in chat letting me know Pavin Smith was actually sent down to AAA, so my bad on that. There will be some cheap lefties in that Arizona lineup, whether it's McCarthy or there's a couple other guys they got hanging out there. So my mistake on the Pavin Smith call, but we'll find some cheap Arizona bats to fill in there, no doubt. We both love Crochet. How about Luis Castillo on the other side? Awesome matchup for him. He is down at 8,500.
No real issues. The White Sox don't strike out a ton, but Castillo is super talented. I personally like Nola more. I like Ryan more. So I probably am not going to play Castillo. I obviously like Crochet more also. So I'm probably not going to get to Castillo, but certainly can't blame anyone that does. He has a huge leash, and it's a great matchup. So, and a great price also.
I think you're going to like my take then. I think Castillo is going to be super chalk.
Oh, okay. All right.
Like 8,500 is too cheap for a guy who can go 100 pitches, gets the White Sox. I don't like when I first opened the slate, I was like, that's too cheap for Castillo in this matchup. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's Nola and Crochet that are the chalk instead of Nola and Castillo.
Well,
I don't know.
I'm looking at tomorrow's projections on the bat, and you would be correct.
Yeah, he's going to pop like crazy. I think
it's gonna be Castillo.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
This White Sox team is just atrocious, and there's a few more strikeouts in their lineup now than there was a couple of weeks ago. Guys like Tommy Pham hit the IL, Eloy Jimenez hit the IL. They've picked up or they've started giving starts to Corey Lee, the catcher, a ton. Zach DeLoach they recently called up. Lennon Sosa, like all those guys are huge K rate guys. So I'm pulling up Plate IQ for today or for Wednesday. It's still 22.9% was their collective K rate, with DeJong, DeLoach, Sosa, Lee, and Andrew Vaughn all have strikeout rates over 25%. If they roll out that type of lineup, then I think Castillo will be the chalk here. Yeah. And I don't know that they have any other options for other bats to roll out that are going to make it look any better. So
yeah, the bat loves Castillo.
Benintendi, another one who was really low K, who's on the IL. So yeah, I agree that like a couple of weeks ago, the White Sox didn't strike out this much. The current iteration of their lineup with all these guys on the IL, there's plenty of strikeouts in this lineup. So I think Castillo has a ton of ceiling in this spot, just given that he can throw 100 pitches. I don't know how hard Seattle's going to push him. They're like, obviously Woo's dealing with some type of an issue here. They have a bunch of young pitchers that they're trying to just keep healthy for a playoff run.
Right.
Castillo's kind of the anchor in that staff, who has been the guy that goes deep into games to save their bullpen a little bit, but I don't think they want to wear him out either. It seems like early in the year, he was going over 100 every start pretty much. He has one start against LA where he went over the Angels, where he went over 100. But it's been since May 12th until he reached 100 before that. So maybe they backed off that a little bit. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Alan in chat said Luis Robert probably traded too. Do you think that's true?
I mean, I think they will move him eventually. Yeah. I don't think it'll be by tomorrow necessarily, but
yeah,
I do think that they will get any talent for anyone that they have. Like, otherwise there's just no future for them. By the time the White Sox are going to be good, Robert and Crochet will be free agents, is basically the point that I'm making. So they might as well get anything they can while those guys are still controllable and teams are willing to pay huge prospect prices for them.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's going to be another ownership decision for me. I love Castillo in this matchup. I think he has a ton of upside. We'll see where the ownership shakes out. Like, I'm going to be basing a lot of my decisions on a small slate around ownership. So we'll see what happens there. Any interest in White Sox bats against Castillo?
Definitely not.
Yeah, not for me either. Cheap home runs is what my first lean would be. Maybe a Gavin Sheets as the lone power lefty in the lineup. Not exciting by any means, but I don't hate it. I wouldn't even go for a leverage stack if Castillo does end up 40% owned or whatever. Mariners bats on the other side against Crochet.
Really no interest at all whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm with you. You're facing a guy with a 34% strikeout rate. Their biggest issue is strikeouts. I don't think it sets up very well for these Mariners bats. Maybe you play like a Julio and hope he runs into one. Haniger is another option. Garver. I wouldn't be anything more than chasing a home run for me, but yeah. No interest in Seattle bats for me. All right, final game of the slate here. We have the Texas Rangers against the Los Angeles Dodgers. We have Michael Lorenzen going for the Rangers and Ryan Yarbrough going for the Dodgers. Dodgers are minus 196 favorites in this one. 8.5 is the run total. Any interest here in Lorenzen at 7K against one of the best offenses in baseball?
Absolutely not. No interest in either one of these pitchers.
Yeah, all. None for me. What is this Ryan Yarbrough price? Like, you couldn't pay me. You couldn't make me play him for 2 starts for 9,000. Like, if he was 4,500 in this start, I'm not sure that I would be playing him. 10% strikeout rate on the season. This Texas offense is watered down, so I'm not scared of them, but there's no chance that I'm paying 9K for Ryan Yarbrough. That's an egregious price. I think we're going to have some interest. Well, I know we're going to have interest in Dodgers bats. Let's start with Texas. Any interest here in Texas bats?
Not a ton. I mean, Seager's back, but I mean, it's not like a great spot necessarily. Not really. There's way better offenses on the slate than Texas, in my opinion. So not really. No.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. They're not one of my favorites. I don't mind trying to find home runs against Yarbrough. Adolis Garcia is probably my favorite option to do that. Trying to see if there's any cheapies. What's Wyatt Langford been up to?
I was just gonna say Wyatt Langford. What's his price?
He's 3,500.
That's not bad.
He's starting to come around a little bit. He's picked it up. Like, man, we had such high hopes for this guy coming into the year. They probably pushed him a little bit too quick through the minors, but I still have great hope for him long term. I think he's a super talented guy. I know Stevie loves him as well as a University of Florida guy. But I definitely believe in the talent long term. They probably just rushed him up a little bit too much, but I certainly don't hate some shots here at 3,500 against extremely low strikeouts from Yarbrough. Jonah Heim is a guy I wouldn't mind taking shots on as a catcher with a little bit of pop. I don't know that I necessarily want a full stack against Yarbrough. And the other thing is we don't know how deep Yarbrough is going in this game, right? He might be like a pseudo opener. This might be a piggyback type of situation here. He's probably only going 3 or 4 innings. He threw 32 in his last one, 49 in the start before that. Looks like he's maxed out at 4 innings. He does have a 5 inning in there. Yeah, I mean, we're looking at a max of like 4 innings, I think, here for Yarbrough.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be too picky. Like if you love Seager in the spot, by all means, don't worry about the lefty-lefty matchup. Yarbrough might not be in there for very long. I don't love the stack though because of the prices. They're just a little bit too expensive. I like a couple of other teams, and I definitely like the other team on the other side. Talk to me about Dodgers against Lorenzen here.
I mean, unbelievable spot. Obviously, all the big pieces are in a great spot. How you fit them is going to be the trick on the slate. So Ohtani, obviously my favorite, and then Freeman, and then Teoscar.
Teoscar over Betts because of price.
Yeah,
and
just because of price. Yeah, better ISO against righties this year too.
Yeah,
which is weird.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'd probably go Betts first just because he's ahead. He like his run scoring ability. He's got a little stolen base ability
and way lower K rate too.
Indeed. So, yep. But we're full stacking the Dodgers. We need some of these cheap guys, unfortunately, to make it work. Hayward is generally my favorite. Gavin Lux is starting to turn it around a little bit. I've been super down on him. He has back-to-back multi-hit games. Don't know what he's done on Wednesday night, but man, if they get Gavin Lux going, this offense is crazy because that dude was oozing with talent before his injury. They just picked up Kevin Biggio. I'm scrolling through right now. I don't see him in the player pool right now. That does not mean he won't be there by the time lock rolls around. I'm assuming that he would have a fairly cheap price, and you move him from a mediocre offense like Toronto into this Dodgers lineup. I could certainly play some Kevin Biggio against a low strikeout Lorenzen also. So if he is in there with a cheap price, like assuming that he's around that Hayward and Lux 3K price tag, I would have a lot of interest in Kevin Biggio.
Whose spot would he take?
Well, Muncy's on the IL right now, so I think it would either be Lux or he would play a little third possibly, and he'd be in there for somebody like Kike or Hernandez.
See, I was thinking he'd just go in for Lux, but
yeah. I think he will when Muncy returns. I think he will. Yeah, unless Lux turns it around, which maybe he's starting to do.
Right.
Anything else to add here on the Dodgers? I think we said it all.
I think we said it all. Yeah.
All right. Derek in chat says Canning keeping pace with Miller through 4 innings. Let's go.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good luck, Derek.
All right. That covers our little 6-game slate here. Let's go ahead and play the morning grind game. Give me a pitcher under 8K to record 6 strikeouts. Options are limited today.
Under what? How much?
Under 8K to record 6 strikeouts.
I'll cheat and just go Fod.
Yeah, that's the only one I even feel comfortable saying. I was gonna say I'll let you cheat and go Severino at exactly 8K if you wanted to do that, but that was so I could be selfish and take Fod for myself. I'm not even gonna name another pitcher. Fod is I think the only viable option. I would say Medina has big stuff. We just haven't seen the strikeouts from him in the bigs. Munoz has done it twice, I believe, in the bigs. He doesn't do it very often in the minors. I don't think he's going to do it against the Mets. I don't know. I guess one of those 2 guys getting 6 wouldn't shock me, but I don't think it's very likely at all. Give me a pitcher over 8K to score less than 15 DK points. Super obvious answer here too.
Oh, well, Yarbrough.
Yep.
But I'd also vote Houck too.
Oh, I'm going to challenge you on that one.
Yeah, I know.
All right, don't hate that, and you certainly could be right. I mean, if he's unable to get the strikeouts or unable to keep the ball on the ground like he's done so far this season, there's some serious power lurking in that Philly order that could be problematic. So I don't hate the call as much as I do like Houck. I don't hate that call. I think Severino will struggle to get there just because of the lack of strikeout upside. So that'd be my answer. That's cheating a little bit at exactly 8K, but he's the other guy. I think everyone else above 8K is in an exceptional spot today. Under 4K to get 2 hits.
I will go with. I guess I'm just going to go the easy way and go Hayward.
I like it. I'm looking right there at the same team. I think Gavin Lux is starting to figure it out. Give me Gavin Lux. How about a stack to score 6 or more runs?
How about not the Dodgers?
That's not the Dodgers. I like that because I think they're going to be, assuming that we
Yeah.
can build lineups with them and get the pitching we want. And there's going to be 2K hitters out there that we can play. So I think it'll be possible. But as long as that's the case, the Dodgers should be massive chalk here. So I like that. Let's go anyone but the Dodgers.
All right. I'll go Arizona.
Love that. That's exactly where I was looking as well. I like Minnesota a ton as well.
Yeah. They're my next favorite.
Yeah. Any player props or pick'em lines out there that are jumping out to you here early?
So Nathan and I were talking in chat, and we took the Phillies minus 112 money line.
Going against my boy Houck again.
Yeah,
I don't hate that. Philly is the better team. There's no doubt about it. Aaron Nola is a really strong pitcher. So I like that as well. I like the Philly money line over the Red Sox. Money line I was looking at was, let me see. I forgot to write. I saw it before the show and I was like, ooh, I like that. And I didn't write it down and now I forgot what it was. So trying to find it.
Ooh, Garrett Crochet has a 7.5K prop minus 155 right now over. I like that.
I'm on that.
I'm going to bet that right now. I'm going to go Garrett Crochet over 7.5 minus 155 on DK. I have it.
Love it. So there weren't any props up when I looked early, but I have numbers in mind. So I'm without looking at K props, I'm going to tell you what I was hoping to see. Because I love this pitching slate. I think there's a ton of upside. I'm looking for Houck at 6.5, Joe Ryan at 6.5, Brandon Pfaadt at 5.5, Crochet at 7.5, and Luis Castillo at 6.5. Any of those hanging out there?
Houck is at 5.5 on DK.
I'm betting it right now, sir. That's an over for me.
It's even money. The over is even money on DK.
Yeah, I'm betting that right now, and I'll be writing that one up on Scores and Odds as soon as we're done here. Nobody else is up.
Well, no, we got a few that are up. We got Lance Lynn, 4.5, Mitch Keller, 5.5, Justin Steele, 5.5, Taj Bradley, 5.5, and then Nola's 5.5. Over is minus 160. Yeah, I don't like that.
If that was like minus 130, minus 140, I'd be into the Nola. I don't want to pay minus 160.
I don't mind laying the juice with Crochet, but I don't like laying the juice with Nola.
Yeah.
So
I'm with you there.
That's all that's up for pitchers.
All right. A lot of those early games have lines up, but nothing much for the late games, hardly at all. Justin Steele at 5.5, I'm interested in. I need to dig into what Tampa Bay has done against lefties, but I like that Justin Steele. I've been on his over outs. Oh my goodness. Over 17.5 for Justin Steele is minus 180. A little too much juice there for my liking.
Can you do alt outs?
I wish you could, man. I wish you could be. No. Okay. I basically think an over 16.5 and an over 17.5 are the same bet. So if I could save a little bit of money by taking an over 16.5 to over 17.5, I would do that every time. But I have not found a book that hangs alternate outs lines, unfortunately.
Yeah, maybe next year.
Maybe. All right, man. Good stuff. Anything else you want to add before we go ahead and get out of here?
Nope. Thanks, Keith.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate everyone joining us live as well. Appreciate you watching us on the recording also. I will be filling in for Stevie one more time. Back tomorrow. I believe I will be back with the Chief, with Will Priester. So make sure you are joining us tomorrow as well. For now, good luck on Thursday, everyone.